All right, a warm welcome back to the Verdict, our election studios, where we're doing coverage of these elections. And before the break there, we were listening to the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, giving an update, as it were, on the progress so far in the electoral process for the presidential elections as well as the National Assembly elections. As we have repeatedly said, elections are still going on in parts of the country, and he's updating on some of the incidents, both positive and negative, that had been received by the commission. We were talking about that before we had to go to him, and so now we have details of the commission's reaction to some of those incidents, and therefore maybe we should come back to you, Lady Adejumo. We've listened to the INEC chairman now on some, so we're no longer really just speculating. The commission has an official reaction to some of the things we've talked about. And what do you make of his overall response?
Adi, thank you. What I heard him say is review. I never heard anything called penalties. I find it very, sad, I should say, that when you hear such reports, especially of a life, the snatching of ballot boxes and the destroying of materials is irrelevant to a whole life. We hear of people being killed needlessly, and we hear of people being also injured. And he's telling us there will be a review. Is the review going to bring back the life of those that we get that are dead? I would rather he says that penalties such and such. How does a person who lost a son, a brother, a husband, whatever it is, how are they going to feel when he says such a thing like a review? Where is the process we're going to take? We talk about a legal system. We talk about criminal justice. We talk about equity and fair play. And where is the equity and fair play in this continuous stories we hear? Every election year, we have heard of violence. We've heard of people being killed needlessly. What is going to be done? What is INEC going to do? Have they even told us they've been able to apprehend those that shot these people? So as a concerned citizen of Nigeria, I think where we should be going is to look for the, what next? How do we, there's no compensation for your life. But I think when we think of sympathy, or should I call it compassion, we would, and we're sitting in the seat of that person who lost the person, we should be talking about penalties. What are the electoral, violence that occur every time we do an election? I've never really heard anything. Last in 2015, we had killings. I'm not sure, maybe you could educate me, but I never heard anybody was punished. Then we talk about political power backing these people, because before anybody can shoot or kill, we definitely know it's not from the police. And I know that we also had Federal Road Service cops at my polling booth. So it definitely is from the hooligans, the hoodlums, that are either in a party, it could be APC, it could be PDP, but they are working for some political giants, or I don't want to mention gladiators, is a word we've used quite often here. But who sends them to kill? Have we got to the root cause?
But do you think that, you heard the INEC chairman say that it is until the election is concluded, we begin to learn lessons, and that, there are a lot of questions that were put to him, and he said, well, this is a lesson that we have learned. I don't know whether it's their core responsibility to fish out, people who have committed this kind of acts, but you don't find any solace in what he said this afternoon?
I don't find solace in it, because, we're Nigerians, but we know there's always a root cause to these things. They're the ones who are responsible, because they're the ones who are at the scene. They're the ones who should have made the electoral bill protect the lives of the innocent citizens going out to vote. They're not the military, and they're not also the police. But what happened last in 2015? Did you hear anything about those who were killed? We had killings. Why has that history of what happened, why has it not affected us in this? Why are they not ready? That's what I'm saying. Why is the system not in place that will stop this sort of thing? Let's go to enlightened communities, or let's say societies. Do we hear people being killed at a United States of American election or a Canadian election, or even, you know, let's look inwards and see why these things have to occur. We have a lot of things. I find really the judiciary and the criminal justice system, I find it very frustrated. I didn't tell you, but I'm a lawyer that is not practicing because I chose that in a country where we say we have laws. We do have laws in Nigeria, and I'm sure even under this electoral act, there are laws of what should happen. But how many times are these laws that are enacted? How do we follow them up? Do we really follow up laws? Everything we do right now in Nigeria, if we can only get it right and say, when this person does this and this should be the punishment. If we have punished people before, like in 2015, this would not happen because nobody wants to be punished. If there's a law that says if anybody kills anybody on election day, this and this would be
the punishment.
The punishment.
Let's go to our Abuja studios, where we have Jacqueline Iketonye and Mr. Wale Oluwade. First of all, Mr. Oluwade, what do you make about the update given to us by the INEC chairman? I know you haven't had an opportunity to speak in the segment yet, but what do you make of that, given where we are coming from yesterday, the election itself, and then what is going on now?
Yeah, thank you, Ladi. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians, you know, including myself, agree with the INEC chairman, you know, that it's gratifying to finally have the elections, you know, hold yesterday, you know, so that at least we've gotten that out of the way, you know, and we're awaiting collation of results, you know, that is going on, and then maybe tomorrow, next tomorrow, you know, a formal announcement of a new president and members of the National Assembly will be announced by INEC. Be that as it may, you know, I mean, just to agree with the panelist, you know, in Lagos, Mrs. Adejumo, you know, I find it a bit unnerving, you know, the comment to a specific question asked by one of the journalists, you know, at the media briefing of the INEC chairman. You know, the way he glossed over, you know, some of the questions, you know, particularly concerning the role security men played in this election of yesterday, you know, and especially the loss of lives, you know. I mean, he's refused to put a number. I also don't have a specific number, but I think there aren't less than 10 people, you know, so far, or more, not less than 10 people or more, you know, that lost their lives, you know, in very gruesome manner because of, I mean, elections. And the question needs to be asked, you know, why are our elections, you know, like warfare? You know, why is it like a war, you know, situation, you know, that people have to lose their lives, you know, because of, you know, ordinary elections, you know, and then what are the consequences? But critically, what is important to me is the role of security agencies, the military and the police, you know, in the conduct of elections. You know, there was a lot of controversy about the statements made by the president concerning, you know, those who come out to snatch ballot boxes, you know, would pay with their lives. And that controversy raged all the way from Monday until yesterday. And you know, some are claiming, you know, that this loss of lives yesterday is one of the consequences of that statement. Maybe it is true, maybe it is not, you know. But cast your mind back, you know, to 2018, just last year, the rerun elections, in Osun State on the 27th of September. We all witnessed, the role the military, the police played, in that debacle, that terrible, so-called elections that is nothing more than a sham, that INEC conducted. And I would have expected that after that, 27th September last year elections, the rerun elections in Osun, that INEC would have sat down, and come up with a way forward concerning the role of the military or the police, in subsequent conduct of elections. Only for him to come and say this afternoon again that, oh, they can't come up with any definite reaction until after the second wave of elections. That is on March 9th. But the question is, not even a question, I can wager my last buck that we're going to see, renewed wave, of violence, of killings on March 9th when gubernatorial elections, House of Assembly elections are going to be conducted all over the 36, in some states, So why can't we have this conversation now? Why isn't INEC, going into, a crisis management scenario, to stem this tide? What exactly is the definite role defined, for security personnel in the conduct of elections? I know in 2015, that the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, had wanted to deploy the military. And APC then went to court, got a court order that expressly said that the military have no role, in the conduct of elections. Now, how come it is now that APC are in power and they are deploying the military? And the military, at the drop of a hat, are shooting people, or thugs are allowed. And there are also the cases of the weakness of the institutions, that conduct elections in Nigeria. From the
Mr.
police,
Oluwade, let me put you on pause.
INEC itself,
let me put you on pause. Let me put you on pause, Mr. Oluwade. First of all, let me also say that we do not have any evidence yet of the shooting of anyone by the military. We do not yet have the evidence in this circle. That's one. The second is that if indeed the opinions that you've offered about the Osun elections and so on are yours, there is no evidence to support most of what you're saying. At least that is obvious to us. But having said that much, let me go to Jacqueline Pt.1 and ask this. Do we want to have our cake and eat it? And the question is this. Ahead of these elections, we've said that the security agencies that will be around the booths need not be armed because we don't want to scare away the voters. But then those who would come to the booths and cause harm then became aware that whatever security agency will be at the polling booth or polling area will be unarmed. So they had nothing to fear.
Okay, we need to be able to strike a balance here, because yesterday I noticed that most of the security men at some of the polling units we visited, they were not armed. Now, of course, there was relative peace in all those places. The turnout was massive, but even those who couldn't vote, they were able to control themselves. But having said that, I'm also aware that in situations where some of the security personnel are not armed, like what happened in some places in Lagos yesterday, how do you expect them to control those crowds? How do you expect them to control those thugs, for instance?
If you are seeing what's
we need to be
going
able to strike a balance, and it all boils down to proper orientation of our security
trying
personnel.
to control about 6 people. If you look to your screen right now...
If you look to your screen, Jacqueline, if you look to your screen right now, we're playing a video of what went on yesterday in Okota, in Lagos. You can see the policeman. He's unarmed, and there are about five thugs.
He's moving from one person to the next, and they're still, sorting it out among themselves there.
And this is kerosene that they're pouring on those materials and the ballot boxes. And then the next thing is... Please go on.
Okay, now, look at this scenario. We all are Nigerians. And we know, even, for instance, in ordinary traffic situations, as simple as it is, there are situations where if there's no security, no traffic warden controlling traffic, people are just unruly. But in this situation now, I can assure you that if those guys were armed, they would have been able to put some control to this madness I see going on there. So that's what I mean by we need to actually strike a balance. While not empowering the security personnel to shoot at people who are, I mean, legitimately out to come and vote.
No,
but where they are where there's proper orientation, they should know who their targets are. Those guys are thugs, and they need to be dealt with.
But Mr. Ketu,
and those guys, they cannot deal with them without arms. Because,
if you listen to the INEC chairman today, he had said that there was a reason why that recommendation had come that policemen within the unit should not be armed, and perhaps we're going to learn lessons from that. But my worry is, you say, okay, you tell a policeman that shoot whoever you think is not, behaving themselves properly, is open to abuse, and then will that not now bring back the guns into our electoral system?
No, there has to be, I also observed, like a shortage of security personnel in some of the places we went to. So we need to work on that, because if you look at that video, I could see just about 2 security men, and those thugs were, I mean, they were outnumbered already. So we need to look at that, and like I said, go back to the drawing board and put more security personnel. Where you have a lot of all these VIPs being followed by a lot of security men, they should deploy these men to where they should walk. Like if you look at the video, I could see about 2 security personnel with the number of thugs collecting the ballot boxes, which shouldn't be. But I can assure you that if those guys were armed, those boys will think twice before doing what they're doing. But at the same time, in some of the places, without the security men being armed, it makes people more relaxed, especially people without any ulterior motive to cause trouble. It makes them more relaxed. Voting went on smoothly. But in some of those flashpoint areas, and INEC should be able to identify flashpoint areas before election. I mean, we had 4 years to plan for this, or at least 3 years to plan for this. They need to be able to identify flashpoint areas, do a needs assessment, then position security men in those flashpoint areas, armed security men, not just unarmed security men. And I think that's going to help a lot towards minimizing this kind of scenario we are seeing here.
Okay, Jacqueline, the question I want to ask is, you said to me about arming these policemen. If we look at the role that the police is supposed to play during our elections, 1, yes, protect the election officials, protect the citizens there, ensure that, or arrest at the instruction of the polling officer, as the case may be. If you arm the policemen at the polling unit, wouldn't that bring fear into the minds of those who are there to vote as well? Have you considered that?
We need to look at this beyond the election. We live in a society where people see election, see political office as a do or die affair. And these are some of the issues we need to go back and deal with. It's not just about election day. There is a fundamental problem with our mindset concerning political office. Now, for some people, if they don't win that election, it's either do or they die. So we need to go back and address that. It's a mindset within the system that we cannot overlook. What are those things that make people believe, except they will have thugs, except they have thugs to disrupt the electoral process, election must not go on? We need to look at that, identify those problems, and address it properly. If it means, because the political office in Nigeria, we know, it's an industry, and a very lucrative industry. We have to find ways after this election, not today, after this election, before 2023, are there policies we need to put in place to make electoral offices less attractive? We need to look at that and address those issues. But they're not things we're going to do right away, because the truth is this: if you do not position some armed men in some, not all of the polling stations, you're going to have more people killed. And that's very, very sad.
Okay.
In a normal situation, it shouldn't be.
All right. Let me see if I can swing this real quick back here to Lady Adejumo.
Well, perhaps you will swing it to her
after
quickly after the break.
after the break.
After the break, yes.
Don't go away.